Excited today to share something that we deal with on a very, very regular basis is objections in business, right? Any sales process you deal with, you're going to have objections that come up, whether you're on the phone calling people, whether you're face to face. And so today, really want to just kind of spend some time talking about and give you specific strategies and actually talking about a couple different objections, the main three you'll hear in this business, and kind of ways to overcome those. So what we're going to talk about today, the importance of overcoming objections. Like, why is it important to be good at overcoming objections? How do we deal with objections in our business when we're selling to merchants? We're going to dive a little bit deeper into understanding and empathizing with the prospect once you get an objection. And then finally, we'll go through a couple of the common objections that you will face, when you're out there in the marketplace, and kind of how we manage those common objections when we're dealing with it. So what I always tell our team, and it's part of our training with the team, selling doesn't start until you've been presented with an objection or until you've been told no, right? That's when selling starts. If I was just to go and meet with a business and everyone said yes and gave me 0 objections, quite frankly, I wouldn't need to have really great sales reps to do it, right? I wouldn't need people that could have that ability to overcome objections and ask good questions. So I always remind myself that, an objection is not bad. It's just a step towards getting them and guiding them to a place where they're ready to buy. And I say this a lot as well. People hate to be sold, but they love to buy. So how can we guide people to realize that they want to buy from us? If you listen to one of my videos earlier in the week, I talked about the 2 reasons people buy, right? And so understanding that and getting to the point of wanting to buy and not be sold, you're going to sell a lot more. You're going to keep a lot more customers long term. So there's 3 main reasons this is important to you. Like, mastering the ability to overcome objections is extremely important for any entrepreneur, because everyone's in sales at the end of the day. Whether you're selling a merchant, whether you're selling an employee, you're recruiting a potential employee, selling an idea to your wife or husband, like, everyone's always selling and having to overcome objections that you don't realize it. So in our world, the importance is, one, it's going to increase the number of appointments scheduled. So when you think about it, if I make $100 on a Friday on a blitz and I get 20 people on the call and I'm not good at overcoming objections and I only get 4 to give me an appointment, well, as I master overcoming those objections and I increase the number of appointments, now I've got 8 instead of 4. I've got a better chance of closing more deals. Number 2, it's going to improve your percent of presentations closed. When you're meeting with people, being able to overcome those objections is going to mean you close more presentations. What I always focus on with our team is activities, right? So we look at, here's how many activities you made. Of those activities, here's the number of appointments you got and what percentage that is. And then once you get the number of appointments, here's the number of presentations you closed. So we're constantly focused on the percentage and increasing that percentage and getting those improvements in the number of people I get on the phone. How do I increase the number of appointments that people schedule with me? Once I have a meeting, how do I increase that close ratio? And most importantly, it's going to help you put more money in your bank account, because if you get more appointments and you close more presentations, that means more money for everyone. So this is how we deal with objections. This is kind of science backed. This is not something I made up. There's lots of different sales training out there about how to deal with objections. And it's kind of pulled from those. This is kind of my version of lots of different sales trainings that are out there. But number 1, you got to understand and acknowledge the objection. So when you think about understanding and acknowledging, by acknowledging the prospect, you show you're actively listening and you understand their concern. I've seen it too many times where someone will throw an objection and a person skips 1, 2, and 3, and they go right into number 4, which is the most natural thing to do, by the way, which subconsciously is going to turn you off from that prospect. You can't go into solving the problem of the objection immediately. You gotta work your way into it, or you're going to throw the person off. They're not going to feel like you hurt them, and you're just trying to sell them. And that's how it's going to feel immediately. Number two, empathize with a prospect. So by showing empathy, you really are showing the customer, and this is more of a subconscious thing too, but you're showing you truly understand why they have that objection, right? You're empathizing with them. You're trying to find a way to, share their understanding with them, not just say I understand it. Like you want to empathize with them about that actual problem they're having. Number three, thought-provoking questions. So this is one of the most important parts, and probably the hardest part, is asking really great questions and then asking the question behind the question. This is something it's not really teachable. You got to really spend time being a good conversationalist. I can give you good thought-provoking questions in that first question, but the actual digging and keep continuing that conversation, that's a little bit harder. It's a little bit more advanced. So, but asking a thought-provoking questions gives you that ability to dig deep for the real reason that they don't want to purchase, and then it gives you the ability to guide that prospect. Also, one thing I like to do, and I teach our team, is when you're asking a question, if you can do it in story format when appropriate, it's going to land a lot. It's going to land a lot better because stories help paint a picture. It helps you realize when you're like, if I say, "Oh, I'm going to the beach," right? Yeah, we know what a beach is. But if I start talking about, oh, last year we went down to 30A and we stayed at this place that we're going to go to again, that they had these little white buildings. The whole area was white. We were at this sunset, and then they had this really huge white pavilion, and they had a guitar out there. Like I told a story, and I used to envisioned all that. You connect better with stories. Um, and number four, respond with a proposed solution. If you have social proof or a case study when available, use it. So a case study may be, you've got one you're using from us. Social proof, what I mean by that's more like, I met with John down the street. He had a similar problem, and this is what we did for him. And I would say John with whatever business he's with. So as you build up your book of business, you're able to do that on a regular basis. And as your sales reps, if you're hiring sales reps, as they build up their book of business, same thing, they're going to be able to kind of do the same thing. So again, one, understanding and acknowledge. Two, empathize with the prospect, ask a good thought-provoking question, and then respond and with a proposed solution if you got one. All right. So let's talk about why is understanding and empathizing so important. And I want to spend some more time on this because what I find is this gets skipped and people just go right into either asking the question or they'll go into the solution. If you go into asking the question, at least you did that. But if you go right into the solution, people are not going to feel listened to. And it really will affect your closing ratio. So let's kind of start before I kind of jump into the five different things that are important with empathizing. I want to kind of just read this out. Understanding and empathizing with prospects is not just about closing a sale. It's about building a foundation for a strong, trusting relationship that can lead to sustained business success. Closing is one thing, but you want people to be customers for many, many years to come, many, many years to come. So how you make them feel is what they're going to remember, right? Not what you said, how you made them feel. And building that rapport, building that is just going to make you have a much better relationship. So let's talk about, why it's important. So number one, it builds trust and rapport. So when you think about empathy, it's going to help in building a genuine connection with a prospect, which is going to be essential in establishing trust. And when a prospect feels understood, they're more likely to trust you or your salesperson and the product and service that you're actually selling to them. Number two, it's going to reduce resistance. So everyone, when you start to sell them, they're going to have walls up and they're going to be a little bit resistant. But as you connect with them and you build that trust and that rapport, their walls start coming down and prospects are more open to discussing their real objections when they feel heard and understood. So this just gives you an opportunity to address the actual concern effectively. So, and it's going to lower as you become more empathetic, it just lowers the prospect's defenses and again makes them more receptive to to the message you're trying to tell them. Number three, it helps you uncover the true needs and concerns. One of the most biggest objections I hear is like, we don't have the money. Well, you're just trying to get me off the phone. And if I'm not a good sales rep, then I'll fall for it and I'll handle it wrong. And you will win as the prospect. But that's not the real reason in most cases, especially when you're selling a product at the price that we're selling it. So when showing empathy, you show you understand, even when they say they don't have the money, it'll help you really dig into what the real concern is with the platform. Number four, it's going to help you. It's going to help you enhance communication. So the more you can make sure you understand what their needs are, make sure you're empathizing with the needs, whatever rebuttals we're throwing out. You're just going to have more meaningful conversations. People are going to open up to you more. Which number five, it ends up fostering long-term relationships. So I can't say it enough how important it is as part of managing rebuttals. I mean, we all talk about, obviously you want to build trust and rapport, but how do you do it? And how do you connect with people? If you can learn to be empathetic and be truly empathetic with people, I mean, the rapport it's just so much easier to build trust and rapport. All right, so now we're going to jump into some common objections from prospects. So I got three different scenarios I'm going to go through, and I also have kind of the four-step process that I would use on this objection. Obviously, I wouldn't say it exactly this way because it's going to be more conversational, but I'll kind of share it with you as it's written, and then I'll go into kind of long form. So number one scenario. Our budget is not enough for the service. We just can't afford it. So the first thing I want to do is I want to understand and acknowledge, right? So I completely understand, with the current economic state that budgets are a big concern for companies like you. Then I want to empathize. And you can do this because you're the owner. Now, a sales rep would have to use a little bit different, but use the business owner. You have the ability to connect to the other business owner because you've got a shared, you both are business owners, so that's a shared experience. So as a fellow business owner, I have the same issue, and like you, have to make sure that I'm careful about adding new expenses. So I acknowledged, I empathized, and now I'm going to jump into, let me ask you one question. Does your dining service slow down when it's raining? And they're going to answer, well, yeah, it absolutely does. And then I would jump in probably with another question, and I would make that part of my proposed solution. Do you think it'd be valuable with a couple of clicks that you could text all your customers on a rainy day and then track how many people came in and during that rainy day period? Absolutely. And then we actually had a guy recently, it was raining, he sent out a text, drove in 20 people on that rainy day. Average ticket's $20. He drove in $400. It's John over here at John's Pizza Shop. If you have that, that's when I would share that under the pro solution. If you're trying to get the meeting at this point, so I'd love to come and share this solution along with many others that are going to help you increase revenue, build strong relationships with your customers that you can actually track. How does that sound? Then you go into asking for the meeting. Obviously, it's a little bit different if you're face to face and this comes up. You're going to spend some more time in the social proof, the case studies, and then you're confirming that makes sense, to them. So that's just one thought-provoking question. You may spend a little bit more time in questions. I tend to spend a little bit more time in questions. You don't necessarily have to, but what that does is the more thought-provoking questions that I can ask, the more connected I become with that prospect. Common objection number two, we don't have time to implement the product. These are the two most common, one and two are the two most common objections we see. And quite frankly, they're probably two of the most common objections in every business. And they're just not really telling you the truth in most cases. Yes, everyone's busy. So do they have time? They don't have time, but for the right product, everyone has time. So let's just manage this objection. We don't have time to implement your product. So I want to understand and acknowledge. I completely understand you don't have time to implement a new product. So I'm acknowledging the fact that, you know what, I hear you. You don't have time. But now I want to empathize a little bit. I imagine you're very busy running your business and putting out fires, making it harder to spend time on new programs to enhance your business. So I'm empathizing, like, you're busy. I get it. It's tough. But let me ask you one question. So you see what I did there? Like took some time to understand, acknowledge, empathize. And obviously, if it's a more advanced objection, they're not going to be as simple if they're talking about stuff with the software. But that's still the same framework. So then I go into the thought-provoking question. Here's another one you can use. And a lot of these questions are interchangeable. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a way to automatically communicate with your lapsed customers to win them back? The reason I ask that question is because in most cases, they don't. And if they say, yeah, awesome. How are you currently doing? Is that through email or through text? Maybe it's through email. Great. What's that open rate on that? Is it how much revenue is that driving per month? Right. You want to keep digging deeper as you're asking more questions. And then you go to solve the solution once you get done with the Q&A. And in this case, the beauty of our software is we can automate almost everything, meaning implementation will take very little time. Plus, I think we can save you time with employee onboarding and employee communication. And if I have some social proof, I would add it there. So what I mean by employee onboarding is, let's say you hire a new person and you've got over a 3-week period, there's a message you want to send them every day. We could put them in a group and have that automatically sent out every single day, right? And so we can help save you time in other ways by communicating with staff via text message. So another great way to kind of manage that. Number 3, this is the one that's starting to come up a lot more, is our POS already has these features. Again, we're going to understand and acknowledge, yes, I understand that POS systems have become far more advanced with marketing features and now offer some of the solutions we have. This is a little bit, you got to be, this one's a little bit trickier to empathize with, right? So you've got to really get good at the empathy side. I also understand that adding a new solution when you're ready, when you already have it, doesn't make a whole lot of economical sense, right? So I'm kind of like, yeah, I get it. It just doesn't make sense economically if you already have it. But let me ask you one question. Are you currently automatically sending text to customers who have lapsed to win them back? Oh, no, I'm not. That's just one of the automated ways we can help you increase revenue. I've found that POS systems have some of the solutions, but they are usually pretty limited as they focus on POS and not on customer engagement like we do. So I'd love just to sit down, learn more about your business, how you're communicating, how you're rewarding loyalty, share ways we've helped other businesses in the community do that. In worst case scenario, I give you a few ideas that you can then implement with your current POS system. How does that sound? And that would have been more for like a call. So that's the 3 main scenarios.